Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wote ambao mnatusikiliza popote mlipo. Welcome to this great show that today we are having live streaming of domestic violence cases. For the past few days, we've had so many reports on both social media and mainstream media about the domestic violence. Good afternoon and good evening wote ambao, and so much has happened. Welcome to this great show. Sorry for that. So much has happened. Domestic violence. We are going to have our guest today. Today we are going to have Kezia Njuguna and Terry Mwola joining us just in a few. You can see their faces. They'll introduce themselves. But before that, it's important to understand that if you are following us for the first time, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Study Room TV. Comment and leave your comment there. Please make sure that we make this program very interactive. Program. We are going to have a 1 hour show. And right now we are just 5 minutes into the show. Kezia, how are you? Good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm good. You're looking lovely.
You can hear me, you can see me.
We can see you, we can hear you. Terry Mwola, what about you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. You also look lovely. It's good to have you on board. Today we want to really discuss more about all this that we are talking about. And I'll just request that we follow, if you are following us for the first time, chat, and subscribe to the channel. Domestic violence has been an issue. Has been a big issue in the country, and not only in the country, across the world. And just to bring it into perspective, I would like us to go through just a few areas, few things that have happened in the past few days. If you've been keen enough, there is this case scenario. This is a lady by the name Mwende. Mwende was, I think, hit, chopped, in fact, her limbs, I think mikono yake ilikatwa with the husband, the alleged husband, amba tunaweza kumuita vipi. And 30 years, the husband was jailed for, I think, 30 years for brutally chopping off the wife's hand. This is Mwende in 2016. The case later materialized, and so far, we can say that Mwende, at least Mwende's case came to closure. Stephen Gila, Mwende's husband, committed the crime in 2016, cutting off both her hands and hacking her with a panga. It made global headlines. He called her infertile and unfaithful. She said she was desperate to save their marriage and had sex with another man in hopes of conceiving a child. That's one case scenario. Another case scenario that we are having is the latest one that I think happened this year or late last year or this year in January. And this is of the athlete, great athlete, IAAF, young athlete, I think won gold medal some years back, Agnes Tirop. Police in Kenya have arrested the husband of record-breaking long-distance runner Agnes Tirop, who was stabbed to death at her home. That is according to the news. Ibrahim Rotich, who was detained in the coastal city of Mombasa, will face charges once investigations are complete. an official said. And Miss Tirop, 25 years of age, was found dead on Wednesday in the western town of Iten, a training center for top athletes. And remember, this happened just after breaking a world record, a women world record, 10 kilometers race world record. Just 4 weeks after that, she was found dead. And another part of it is that we are so touched and understand this scenario. Just last week, on April 8th, great musician Osinachi Nwanchuku, the gospel singer known for her collaborative hit track, Ekweme, died at an Abuja hospital where she was being treated for an ailment. Now, here it is written an ailment, but the stories that are happening so far is that it is not just an ailment. Since her demise, there have been allegations that the singer was a victim of domestic violence. Osinachi's husband, accused of being physically abusive, has been arrested by the Federal Capital Territory, the FCT Police Command. These are just cases that have been put into records. There are so many cases that are happening around the world that we don't know. And statistics also say that 45% of women and girls aged between 15 to 49 have experienced physical violence. 14 of them, of the above number, have experienced sexual violence, with 41% of women having experienced physical or sexual violence from their husbands or partners in their lifetime. Something that is so interesting. And so today we are having our great people that are going to talk to us. That is Kezia Njuguna, a CEO, K-Link Limited Youth Council, and today she's a free thinker. And then Reverend Teresa Washera Muola, marriage counselor and an assistant pastor, New Hope Church. Karibuni sana. At least mnaweza kusalimia watu waweze kusikia mahali mulipo. So now it is official. Kezia, habari yako?
Nzuri sana, habari yako? I'm happy to be here.
That's great. And so just to start us off before I'll bring in Terry Muola later, Kezia, according to you, you've seen all these stories that we've highlighted. To you, what is domestic violence? According to you, what is domestic violence?
Domestic violence to me is any form of violence that is committed towards a victim by a family member or someone in the domestic circle. So it can be for domestic violence is not necessarily just for the married people, even children, you know, even a husband who is beaten by the wife, and a wife, you know, who is sort of abused by the husband. So to me, I feel like domestic violence is something that is a bit more, it's spread, you know, we're used to just violence is physical, alinigonga, you know, but there are very many other facets to a human being. I'm not just this physical me, you know, there is who am I mentally, yeah? What are my emotions? How is my psychological well-being? So the 4 facets that make up somebody, you know, what makes up, if you attack anything that makes me who I am, you're abusing me. So domestic violence for me is the physical violence, it's the emotional, I can say abuse or emotional violence, psychological abuse, sexual abuse. So yes.
And just before I give it to Terry, is it only associated with the female gender, or male gender can also be abused? Because
anyone
it's something
can
that
be
is
abused.
interesting. Go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear me? Anyone be abused. I happen to come from Nyeri, where we are associated with being a little bit ruthless when it comes to dealing with a man. So if a man is being abused, then they become a victim of domestic violence. If a woman is being abused, then they become a victim of violence. Domestic violence does not mean it has to come from a man. You know, it can come from a woman. So, and they're very, I mean, statistics are there about, I mean, the number of men that are also facing this abuse. It's because men are not talking about this abuse more because we only associate abuse to physical, violence. He hit me. But how about when someone mistreats the husband, when you're always quarreling? Women, we are very easy with our mouth, when you're always putting your husband down and criticizing them and abusing them. That is violence. But that is not reported as much as physical violence is reported.
Wow. At least that brings it into perspective, because we are used to cases of anytime we are talking about gender-based violence, and we most of the time relate it to the ladies, ladies are the ones that are being physically abused. But it's so good to understand that even men, the male gender, can also be abused. Now I want to take it to Terry. Terry, welcome on board. Terry, welcome on board. Karibu sana. So Terry, just let me help on your mic kidogo. There you are. Just unmute it. So as we wait for Terry, yeah, thank you. Now you are through. Terry, according to you, what are the causes of domestic violence? You are a marriage counselor, and you are getting so much of questions from people. So please just try to explain to us what are the causes of this. Yes, Terry. Just unmute, yeah.
Thank you. I'm grateful for this evening. As my colleague has said, Kezia, domestic violence is not only to married partners, it is also happens even to children and all that. And with that in mind, the causes of domestic violence are many, they are various, and they vary from one person to another because of various reasons. For example, it could be from a personal perspective, it could be from a partner perspective, it could be from a family perspective. It's about the personal perspective. I would say one is as a result of maybe the wrong foundations. Some of us have been brought up in wrong foundations. And these wrong foundations, I would mean one like maybe you are told that once you get a child, you're supposed to get married. So some people get into marriage because they have in mind that I have a child and I have to cover up. And so out of this, I need to get married. That is a very wrong foundation, because getting a child is not the end of the matter. And getting into marriage means want to have calculated the steps and to have known that I'm getting into a serious business in life. So some of the reasons are wrong foundations. Another reason of domestic violence could be our faith. Some of us, our faith, as much as we say we are Christians, we have been brought up in a way to believe that as a Christian, you should never get divorced. You should never separate with your spouse. And when you have that in mind, even when things don't go well in marriage, then we find that I have to familiar, I have to keep going on, and I'll not tell anybody. We even fear to tell them.
Madam, sorry to cut you short. So, okay, you are trying to, already you are preempting a question, and this is so interesting. So I'll first of all allow you to continue, and then I'll ask the question later about this part of religion. Continue.
Thank you. Thank you. So another cause is low levels of education. Some people are victimized because of their level of education. They don't know their rights. They don't know what they're supposed to do. And so when they go into some levels and they find themselves physically abused or sexually abused, they don't know what next to do. So low levels of education also are a problem when it comes to this. Another cause of domestic violence is our society and cultural norms. Our societies have their own norms, have their own beliefs. And so out of that, some people believe that maybe when you get married, it's right to have a slap on your wife to make her know that you love her. So some of the beliefs in our societies, they are causes of the domestic violence. Another reason could be the socio-economic status, the statuses of people. They make them not know what to do because you are there, you are economically not empowered. And so when you go through some issues, you don't know what to do. So some of the causes are the socio-economic status that we find ourselves in. Another reason could be drug and substance abuse. Maybe you are very well and you're very okay, but you engage yourself into drugs and substance abuse. And out of that, you find this person get aggressive into doing crazy things, and so ends up even committing those domestic violence acts in their homes. So the drug and substance abuse is also bad. Another reason could be as a result of extended family interference. Some people get married very well and they have no problem with each other, but then the extended family, they interfere with people's marriages and they cause people to have those havocs in the family. And so that is also a cause of domestic violence. There are many causes, but among them, those are some of the reasons why domestic violence is so prevalent in our society, and it is going far and wide. Thank you.
Madam Terry, you've mentioned a very key point, and this point I saw Kezia trying to act on it. And so now I just want to, before I allow Kezia to talk, please, religion has been, the part of religion is really, really important. And this is playing a major role in our lives. And you've interacted with people from different backgrounds. You've seen families coming to you. You've seen women and men coming to you with everyone having a heavy heart. And most of the time, you find that according to the church setup, divorce is not supposed to be a story to be discussed, and neither is separation supposed to be a story to be discussed. Is church really instigating and making the issue of domestic violence to be prevalent? Is the church involved in all this?
Thank you. I would say that is a very contentious issue in the society. And for sure, the church is being blamed to a great extent that we are a major cause of the domestic violence by the fact that the church stresses on the point of no divorce. The church stresses on the point of no separation. And so that is a real contentious issue in the society. However, I would say the church stands on the basis of the Bible, where the Bible tells us that marriage is honorable to all. And therefore, we uphold the doctrine of marriage being honorable and the marriage being a good thing that is ordained from God. And so it is not be the desire of a church to see people separating. And out of that, the church has been stressing on the point that as people get married, it is good for them to have a good foundation. They have an understanding of what they're getting into. They have gone through like premarital counseling. Unfortunately, in our society, premarital counseling has not been taken seriously. Actually, even today, when you tell people to go for premarital counseling, they want it to be done in a very hasty way, in a very fast way, and you give them some period that you want to have time with them, and they'll tell you, we are so busy, we may not be able to afford the time, so please allow us to have maybe about 2 weeks and you'll be through. And so it has not been taken with the seriousness. So I would say for sure, as much as the church is being blamed, the society itself has not taken a position of accepting and understanding that they need to be grounded well in the things of marriage. So, however, church, to an extent, I would say also, to some extent, sometimes we also fail our brethren when they go into issues with marriage issues and they find themselves in some abusive relationships. We try to help them and tell them, you're not supposed to divorce, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to separate. So please bear with the situation, please continue praying. I accept that for sure. Sometimes we fail the people. But however, as much as we tell the people to pray, we tell the people that they need to go to other levels before they divorce. the people themselves, they are to blame. They don't take the grounding well that would enable them to be able to go through the situations of life very well. One thing that the church acknowledges is that even our God himself said that this life will not be very smooth. We know and understand that there will be no smoothness even in marriage life. And so we know that even some situations may come when people are not able to be compatible with each other. But in regardless of all that, we have some ways that we are able to take through the people that have those issues so that they're able to go through it. And in case it is not compatible, we also give them a leeway that, when it comes to some levels, you don't have to risk your life. It is about your life. It is about your future. You can also separate for the purpose of your life. So our status and our commitment as a church is marriage to be healthy. And in case it does not work, then we have a room you can separate. Thank you.
Wow. That had to be clear. Kezia, what is your take on that? And then now, what is your take on the issue of the church? According to you, what is your take on the issue of the church?
First of all, when we talk about the church, sometimes I wonder what we are talking about, because this church, we are still the same people in church, right? Right now, I'm here speaking to you. If you meet me on Sunday, I'll be in church. So what happens when this approach is different? Like, is the same people in church are the same people that we have in the society, whether they are pastors, whether they are the very same people. So sometimes when we push domestic violence and the abuse so much on church, we may negate, or we may remove from it the power of what it actually means. Because I don't really think, I know the church is a system, or is a fundamental system of the society, because that's where we get our moral compass and our direction from, because we go to church to be guided according to the expectation. But in real sense, the church is basically should be an overflow of what is in the society, or rather the society should also be an overflow of what is happening in church. So if the church is not allowing, or if the church is not accommodating this domestic violence, because we are trying to follow the ways of Christ, because God said, I mean, this line, God hates divorce. It is one thing that has really been used like chains or a catalyst towards domestic violence, because I don't want to divorce. I believe in God. Like Pastor has said, when we believe, I just need to pray myself around this situation and it's going to, it's going to be well. But I love being a logical thinker. Sometimes, as much as we want to focus on, what God requires of us and what we're supposed to do, I think we need to understand Christianity, or the religion, in its totality. The Bible is so much more, apart from the verse where God says he hates divorce. And I feel like that line is, I know you agree with me, Pastor, that line is just one that it's really being used the wrong way, if I can just put it pointedly like that. It's really being used the wrong way. Now, just to reiterate, God hates divorce, yes, but God loves me. So if someone is going through a situation and they go to church and they're told to pray and they're going, I feel like the church should address this issue on what is it called, prima facie, without really trying to dive into the Christianity and God says and God wants. The first question maybe we should be asking ourselves is, are you safe? I don't care whether you're born again. I don't care whether you go to church 24 hours. Are you safe in that marriage? If you're not safe, first remove, first seclude yourself, first protect yourself, then let's deal with all these other issues. But now the challenge is, why are people not secluding themselves? Why are people not sort of trying to protect themselves from these abusers? It's because of the stigma. And stigma does not come from church. Stigma is coming from us. It's coming from people. It's coming from your family. Sometimes it's even we ourselves, we have the stigma towards ourselves. Because I'm looking at this case of Sister Ostinachi, the whole story of, I read somewhere today that the husband would sort of beat her and include the children to beat her. And I keep, like, for us to analyze that situation, because it's the freshest, let's analyze that situation. This is a woman who is born again and God-fearing and a woman of God, but she is in a marriage where she's actually being abused. And for it to be that so much in details, it means it's not a one thing, it didn't happen once. Now we need to ask ourselves, why didn't she leave? As a woman of God, why did she leave? Was it because she was a woman of God, or was it because of her own insecurities that had nothing to do with religion?
Just to cut you short, this lady, from the stories that are also happening, an interview with her sister, the sister is painting a grim picture into what has been happening in her life. And one of it is that, in fact, she was not visiting family members. And the last time that she visited the family member was the last time when I think the father died. Now, it takes me to the question of what are these telltale signs, Kezia, that you must really watch out for? Because through this, it will let you know that now I'm getting into the red zone or not. What are these telltale signs that we really must be keen on to understand what domestic violence is all about? Kezia.
I think awareness is key when it comes to identifying domestic violence. First of all, you have to know your spouse, or know the person that you're with, or know know your spouse, whether the man know your wife and the wife know your husband. So when you see the signs in this individual, and I feel domestic violence you can read the signs of someone with, domestic, with the violence, with the tendency to be violent, depending on some of the signs that they show you. One of them is, someone who is just hot-tempered or unpredictable with their tempers. They can do anything. 1 minute they're happy, 1 minute they're not happy. 1 minute they're abusing you, the next minute they're telling you they love you. That is one sign that I find it's quite important, or something that should really be, people should focus on, the characters of the spouse or the character of the someone that you're living with. Another sign is when you feel you're being threatened, and not just physically, when you're feeling afraid. People feel afraid, but you don't want to act upon it, because we are created to survive. That is just in our nature. We are created to persevere. We are created to hope, to want the best. So today someone abuses you, or someone does something that makes you afraid, but you have hope that he will change. You have hope that he will be better. Then he does the same tomorrow, and still there's hope. But now, when someone, to digress a bit, when you give someone room today to, someone attacks you today and you don't do anything about it, as from a psychology perspective of it is, you're fueling this person to feel like it's okay to do it. When you asked Pastor one of the reasons, one of the causes of domestic violence, there's something that I feel is very important that didn't come out. That came out when I was going through my own marriage counseling, was gravitating towards what is familiar. Someone just don't wake up one day and start beating their spouse, or being abusive. It has to come from somewhere. And if we focus on these signs of an individual, not the circumstances that he was angry, or it was just a spark of the moment. When we focus on the qualities and the characteristics of the individual, whether the husband or the wife, then we're able to determine these signs. So when something called gravitating towards the familiar, it's something that we do. This is proven scientifically. When you're put in a position where you have to react in a certain way, the first impulse is always what you're used to seeing, or what is familiar to you, which is called the gravitation towards what is familiar. So if you grow up in a situation where the parents were abusive, when you find yourself in a situation where violence seems to be, in a situation where violence can come up, or on a situation where violence came up, and you saw violence coming up in such a situation, the impulse is always to work towards violence, because it is just in our nature, gravitating towards what is familiar. So some of these, I can say abusers, some of these signs that they have, they could have picked them up from what they grew up seeing. So one of them is that verbal abuse. The other one is unpredictability in their emotions, unpredictability in their actions. The other one, and it's very, very important, is being controlled. If someone is always controlling you, one common factor in all abuse is the person who was abused. I don't mean this one-time abuse where someone just gives a slap, in the heat of the moment. I'm talking about abuse that is recurring. It's usually someone that is, I can say, protective, possessive, controlling. They want to dictate everything you do. So when they don't, or when this person, you don't do according to this person's way of how they want you to do, their reaction then is when they show off how they're disappointed, or how you all have this emotion when you're feeling at a halt, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. There's this emotion of where you want to release that feeling. So how do they release that feeling? They'll release it according to how they show it being released, or how they feel according to what their status is. One other point that I actually noted here, so that I note it as it is one sign that one should notice: the antiquated belief about the role. When I don't know whether I can say it's lack of modernization, or it's just being limited belief, where someone believes this is the role of a spouse, this is the role of the wife, this is the role of the husband. And when that doesn't happen, like the cases of Nyeri, they would say that the man would go drinking and he's not bringing money home, and as a result, now the abuse would happen. Yeah, it's because there's that unequated belief that that's the role of this individual. So as a man, they have this role, this belief that a woman has to be like this. A woman has to treat me like this. A woman has to be submissive. A woman has to behave like this. Sometimes controlling even how you wear, what a woman should wear, how a woman should put on her makeup, what they would wear, even if they should work. There are women that don't go to work just because their husbands are opposed to the idea of them working. So some of those are signs. If someone, they are really controlling and trying to tell and dictate everything, and they are from the belief that this is something that you should do. So when you fail in that category, there's not that desire, or there's not that the urge to come into the place and do the work themselves. So they sort of resort to anger, which comes from a feeling of disappointment because this someone did do what they're supposed to do. So that those beliefs of the systems, and this should do this should do this, it's just some of the things that maybe the system or the era we're in should have sort of devolved it by now. Yes, so another sign is when someone is constantly putting you down and criticizing you. It means that you are a threat, you are an enemy. What do happen when you see someone that is, these signs, when you see something that threatens you, it may not necessarily be something that can eat you up. Like, for instance, I'm afraid of frogs. It's a very tiny thing, but I cannot stand it. So when I see a frog, I don't care where, when I even hear it, I create this wall, or this, I'm ready, I'm either ready to run or kill it, one of these two things. And these are some of these signs that maybe we can apply also in marriage. When you're with someone who's always criticizing you, they're always ready to attack. You're like an enemy. It doesn't matter whether it's the man or the woman, they're always ready to correct you, put you down. Those small emotional abuses, emotional abuse is quite diverse. It's quite a big thing. When someone is messing with your happiness, with your peace, with your joy, with your self-confidence, that is emotional abuse. So some of these signs is, if you feel, or to generalize the signs, is if you feel you are not whole. You're not whole physically, you're not whole mentally, you're not whole psychologically, you're not whole sexually, then that should be the first red flag. You need to, that should be the first red flag. Am I feeling whole? Am I feeling safe? So before we maybe go to very many other causes and signs, I feel like those are the 5 or 6 most fundamental points that sort of give birth to the rest of the other issues.
Wow, that's interesting. That's so interesting. Madam Terry, do you want to add something on that, on the question that we've just asked about the telltale signs?
Sorry. Before Madam Terry comments, I can also reiterate on how much unresolved issues tend to create this tendency towards violence. Because what we feel, whatever is inside us will always come out. Whether it's joy, I will show you I'm happy. If I'm sad, I'll maybe cry or do something, right? If I'm feeling ashamed, I'll hide. So when I have any unresolved issue that causes anger or bitterness, that anger will come out. And sometimes, as one of the signs that we need to maybe as Pastor mentioned in premarital counseling, maybe when people are going through counseling, this issue is not addressed. And I'm talking about this because I went through premarital counseling. The issue on identifying if there's any anger inside someone, because you cannot tell what is inside me. All you're seeing is this facade that I'm creating here. And facade happens a lot when people are dating. They say dating is whatever, and the marriage is the eye opener. So when you get into marriage and there's this anger or unsolved issues that are inside someone and they have not gotten a chance to be exposed, sometimes even the victim, or rather the person who is now have these issues, the anger issues, they don't even know they have them. They don't know they have the anger issues until they're in a situation. Now it is a marriage, it is this person you're with, and you're always with this person. Marriage where you turn like this, your spouse is there, you turn like they're there, and you're not used to it. And sometimes this anger and bitterness will always come out to the one who is near you. So sometimes this domestic violence is not necessarily because the spouse or whoever did this, it's because of the person who is committing or the person who is committing this violence. They have a resolved issue. They have got anger that maybe they have accrued since they were small and they have never had a chance to deal with it. So yes.
Just on the same, you've talked about people having there is already bottled, because we can put it in terms of having bottled fears or bottled anger inside someone, and then by the time that we pop it up, it goes, and so much happens. So Madam Terry, on the same point, we are talking about science and all this, but I want to ask, when is the best time, or when is the best time now to seek help? When is the best time to seek help? Because you might see that you are in the house, you are couples and you are in the house, and the children are the people that are suffering in the house. Anytime you raise a concern, or anytime you are not used to a situation where children are being punished helter-skelter from every moment. But now, for some time, you see that your children are the people most of the time are being punished. Is this punishment also related to a way of someone showing the anger that is in them? And so when is the best time that we really need to act? When is the best time that we really need to act, Terry? I'll ask that you unmute. Sorry. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I state when is the best time to report or to act, as Kezia has said, we realize that these signs of domestic violence, they can be grouped into either the victim or the aggressor, the one who is causing the domestic violence and all that. And also bearing in mind that we said that the violence could also be to the children. So there are various signs that you need to look into. Now, for example, if it is a child, now the victim of the violence, there are those signs like this person has had some changes, like all of a sudden the person is withdrawing from where you are. The person is just having sleep patterns that have already changed. Maybe the person used to sleep so well, but now all of a sudden the person does not sleep well. So you need to identify and find out, why is this child not sleeping well these days? What could be the issue? Or even the eating habits of the child has changed. So there are those patterns that have changed in the victim. And so even if it's you now, maybe a spouse, you need to realize within yourself that at least I have some changes within myself. These days I'm not sleeping very well. What could be happening in my life? So we need to look at those behavioral changes. So in a nutshell, I would say, topping up what Kezia has said, the signs of domestic violence, they go from emotional to physical to natural and all that. They are various. And so somebody needs to look at it from the victim side and also from the aggressor side. What is happening to this person? If it's the aggressor, all of a sudden, see somebody has changed the behavior to being rude, being very, very active, unlike the other times. So you need to understand why are these changes there in the person. So now going to my question, you've asked when is the right time for one to seek an assistance?
Definitely.
I would say based on that previous question, when you see some changes in your partner, let's now talk in the basis of a married couple. When you see some changes in your partner, and these changes are not on the right side, they're going to the negative side. There are changes that are affecting you even psychologically, they're affecting you emotionally, they're affecting your health and all that. Then before they go far, you need to seek an assistance. And this assistance could be sought from on different levels. You could seek an assistance by at least, if, for example, from our perspective as a church, we always recommend that people have a best couple when they're getting married. So you could seek an assistance by going to your best couple to just explain that at least these days I'm identifying some changes in my partner. There is this and this issue that is happening. So maybe you can be sat down by your best couple to find out what could be the reason behind these changes that are being experienced. You could also seek an assistance from maybe your own parents. If possible, you have made some good rapport with your parents, the parents and all that. You could sit down with them and tell them, I've realized that my husband or my wife, these days, ABCD is happening. Could there be an issue that maybe you could help? So you can seek help from different sources, but even before you go all that, find time and talk with your partner and try to ask the partner, these days I can see some changes happening in our lives. There is this and this thing that is happening. What could be the issue that maybe I could be of help to you? If the partner is not ready to open up or not ready to go to the next level, then now you can go to the next level of seeking help from your best couple, from maybe your parent, from your pastor. There are many levels of help that you can go into. But those levels, you could go into them after identify the first level, you have not been helped, you go to the next level, until to an extent that you can even now go to a counselor, the professional counselor that can be able to sit you down and help you to a greater level. So in other words, when you identify those red flags in your relationship, or those red flags in your child, if it is a child, those red flags in the person of your family, then it is always good to go and seek help on behalf of that person so that the person can be helped. Because if the person is not helped, then you go to the next level whereby you get the consequences of domestic violence. The person maybe is getting sick, the person is maybe even having suicidal thoughts and going to even greater levels. So it's always good to seek assistance when you read those red flags. Don't wait until they go to a greater level.
At times, Madam Terry, you might find that you really want to solve the issue, but there is that lack of communication. Can we also say that communication in marriages or in relationships can also lead to lack of it can lead to domestic violence, or even what we call the gender-based violence? Is communication a very key ingredient into all this that we're talking about? Sorry, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Communication breakdown is a great barrier in marriages. When people are not communicating, then it means there is nothing to go on. Even the Bible tells us that two cannot work together unless they agree. That is in Amos 3:3. So unless two people agree together, agreeing means they are communicating, they are in good relationship. So communication, if there is a breakdown, it's a great barrier. It can lead to these problems of domestic violence. So in other words, what you're saying is as long as people are living together, as long as people are relating together, as long as people are calling themselves as spouses, then communication has to be well defined. It has to be well in the family for them to move on in good order. Thank you.
That is interesting. Kezia, now I want to have your perspective. Madam Kezia, if you are on, I'll request that you turn your mic on. I would like to get your perspective. Good, and your video is also off. Just make sure that it is on. Are you with me? Okay, now we can see you. Yes, you've heard about communication, and you are a communication expert. What are the barriers? What are the barriers that we experience in all this? And as you talk about the barriers, bring into perspective, to what extent will someone feel like, now I don't need to communicate? That's a different question. Very tough. Someone asked me about that.
The first question was these barriers. You know,
Yeah.
is the whole point of me. The reason why we are talking, so that you can understand me, and so that there can be action. If we were just here talking for the sake of talking, I'm sure we would have better things to do. But we are here because we want these issues that we are discussing to lead to certain action, to whoever will hear what we are talking about. So when communication comes, when communication in marriage is challenged, especially when the couple, they do not, first of all, see eye to eye, and they did not start the marriage in the right platform. If I'm communicating to be heard. So most of us in marriage, or the couple in marriage, when they're communicating, they're not communicating to be heard. They're communicating to express themselves. So if you're not understanding what your spouse is saying, you just keep talking, then there'll be no result. And that is the biggest barrier, I think, in not just in marriage communication, generally in communication. If what the husband or one spouse is telling the other, if they can communicate for the sake of not venting, for the sake of communicating, putting a point across, I feel like this, I understand this is happening, this is what I feel, this is what we should do, putting all cards on the table and discussing what you did. I did not feel like this was okay, or what you did hurt me like this, or what you did is I'm not feeling, that is what basis of communication is honesty, especially in marriage, and it is not there. So that is the biggest barrier, just transparency in communication, because we can be communicating, but it is not effective. People think communication is just couples talking. No, people can be talking, couples can be talking. They even, they walk together, they work together, they do everything together, but they don't communicate. Where it's this other person, they don't really hear what the person is saying. They don't take time to understand and to empower them to action, depending on what the spouse is saying. So when that happens, you feel, I mean, like unafanya nini inaitangwa kazi ya kuweka maji kwa karai ikiwa imetoboka. That's the same thing would happen. It's like kuchota maji kwa mtungi ama kwa tank ukimwaga kwa ocean. It is it's an annoying thing to do.
Unakausha ocean.
Yeah. So when someone gets to this point where I say I don't see the need of talking anymore, is because, again, as I had mentioned, the whole effect or the whole purpose of communication is so that there can be action. So if one person is always saying and always talking and always communicating, but there's never action from the other side, then that communication should be rendered irrelevant or redundant because it's not bearing any fruits.
So, and just based on the same, I want because I'm looking at the issue of time. Is it possible for an aggressor or the person that is meting out all this to change? If, for example, yes, you gave us different signs and the telltale signs, you and Madam Terry, and now someone has already, you've seen all this. Remember, the lady was saying when I'll give different accounts. I think Gloria Muliro today commented on the death of the great musician. And in fact, she was talking about when worse gets to worse, you just have to live. There is nothing that is more important than your life. You must just live to save a life. And this lady, the information that we are getting from the deceased is that she constantly kept telling people that leave him alone, he will change. We are going to change this. We are going to pray for him. He's going to change. And by the end of it all, she's the one that is not there now. So is it possible for an aggressor, the person that is meting out this, to change?
First of all, yes, it is a victim, or rather an aggressor can change, because we can all learn and adopt new ways of life. We are human beings, can learn. So it all goes back to, they have that self-awareness that they need to change, that there's the desire to change, which means that, first of all, they have to accept that there is a problem. They have to accept that something is not okay here and I need help. So if they're willing to find help, that's why we have people like counselors, psychology counselors and all these therapists, mentors, coaches. All that field of study is all for the sake of helping training people to be something. So yes, an aggressor can change. But there's something that you have mentioned that I'd love to discuss a little bit. When Osinachi, the late, would say that, as you have mentioned, that she would say that he's going to change, just leave him alone. That mentality of for better, for worse. I'm here for better, for worse. I'm loving him in his bad times, and in this case, it's not his bad time, it is your bad time. The victim, you're the one who is the victim. And let me just say this, when the vows are for better, for worse, this better and this worse is not the worst that should come from inside. It is for better, for worse that will come out there and find the people. The worst cannot come from within, and you want to start with it within. It is not logically and philosophically sensible to have someone change, where else you're allowing them to do the exact same thing that they're working to change from. So what is the first thing that maybe we should focus on is, when there's even a small hint of abuse, let never be the solution be that someone should wait. Let the solution never be that you just what will happen. Let that never be the words. The words are, what happens when someone is sick? If today I told you I'm sick, what would be the first thing you tell me? Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Or you take me to the hospital. So what happens when someone is in a marriage that is sick? Because abuse is a marriage that is sick. So why would you tell someone, oh, you're sick, well, just cut up, or let's see if things are going to get better? No, you take them to hospital. So how do you go to hospital? You get out of that situation. You go see someone else. So you go seek help and you get yourself out of that environment. Because it's impossible for someone to shake themselves where there's no room. So if you leave, whether it's the husband or the wife, whoever is the victim needs to leave, so that the aggressor can see it for what it is. It is a problem. It can never be a problem if someone is still there and they're calling themselves victim. So we need to separate violence. Yes, we need to separate violence in itself, in its totality, as violence, from human relationship. If there's violence,
but perseverance is also part of all this that we really need to work on. You need to persevere.
We cannot persevere in abuse. We cannot persevere when there's a threat on the very life of a human being. We cannot persevere. It's like you tell me there's shootings happening in your local town, and you have your family there, and they call you and say, Daddy, there's shooting, and you're telling them, it's okay, you just persevere. The first thing you tell them is find a way to get out of there and be safe. Wow. Just because someone has gotten this stigma, just because someone has gotten out of the marriage does not, if I separate from my husband, does not make me any less of a wife, right? I am still married to him, but I have taken time so that we can deal with this issue. Violence and relationships are two different things. If there's violence, then the relationships need to sort of not take a break, but needs to stop being like the glue. Like, no, I'm married to him. So whether in violence, I'm married to him. So the stigma of separation.
You see also, Madam Kezia, there is that part of, there is the societal norm that is already in us. I need to make a family. I need to have a family. I need to, by you being there, whether you are suffering or not, outside you're supposed to portray a face or an impression of someone that is really, really okay with the family, but inside you're suffering. So I want really just to push it to Madam Terry to just explain to us, is our societal norms, are these issues in our society also contributing to the issue of domestic violence? Because our society, you find there is a place in Western Kenya, Madam Kezia, where a woman will really feel bad if the husband, or if she stays for almost a month without laying a hand on her. Madam Terry, what is your take? Madam Terry? Yeah, there you go.
Yes, indeed, society contributed so much towards the for example, you find that in most of our African societies, they that believe that man is more superior than the woman. Man has the final in everything, which is okay. The last in the when we look at the society that we are in today, we even have our own rights that have been made by the human rights societies and all that. So the society, as you said, Western Kenya, there are people that believe that unless they are even given a slap, then they are not loved. And these are women themselves. They believe that unless my husband gives a slap at least once, then this man does not love me. And so when they go into the part of giving slaps and slaps, then finally it becomes a habit and it becomes a part of domestic violence. Even in Ethiopia, I learned there is one tribe in Ethiopia that believe that before they get married, the man that is proposing to get married to a lady must beat the wife, the lady so much, must whip the lady until the lady gets bloody on the body parts. And if the lady cries, then it means this lady does not love the man. But if the lady does not cry, the lady means that she loves the man. So some of these cultures that we have, I would say they are backwards. They are backwards, and they contribute so much towards the people having the domestic violence in their families. And again, also, our society has also not taught us that when you're beaten, don't tell people about it. It's about you and your family. And when you go out, people will they'll look at you as a failure. They'll look at you as a person who doesn't know what you're supposed to be doing in your marriage. So those societal norms, they make you go against your own rights as an individual, and they make the domestic violence to be so much prevalent in our society. So I would say, in conclusion, that for sure the societal norms and beliefs, they have contributed greatly to the domestic violence that we see in society today.
Thank you, Madam Terry, for that. And it is true that domestic violence, the perspective of our culture and the societal norms are really contributing into all this. And that takes me to the question that it will be open to all of you, because we are now behind time, on the issue of boys and girls. Do you think that it will be very, very important for boys and men to be sensitized on the rights of women, and even women and girls to be sensitized on the rights of men? Because in our society, it is bad when a boy cries. That one is the norm, what we believe in. Will it be really important to give this boy or explain to this boy about, or sensitize them about the rights of women, and women also on the other hand being sensitized on the rights of men, and girls being sensitized on the rights of men? We'll start with Kezia, then we go to Terry. Kezia?
Yes, of course, we need to point out what is the boundaries, or what is the boundaries as far as safety is concerned for children, for women, for men, so that we can identify, so that when someone sees this, then it's out there that is actually a form of abuse. That is something that is against my right as an individual, because that gray area right there, if there's no sensitization on the boundaries and the do's and the don'ts, and the way of life and what is accepted, not by the society, what is accepted according to the human rights. So maybe, yes, the sensitization is key. There should be campaigns. I feel like it's, I know this has been said once, twice, so many times, but there should be campaigns really insisting and focusing on illuminating these signs of abuse so that you see them before it is too late, and you understand that it is a sign, it is a seed that will grow. So you deal with it as a seed. Because by the time it becomes a big thing, it's now you have already, like the late, you have already felt like you have to show I'm married, I have to show here. So yes, I can say that it is important for this sensitization to be done. It's actually not important. It is direly needed right now. It is paramount that we just highlight what we are doing, just highlight what are these signs for both boys and girls, so that, so that they protect themselves and they're safe around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. On the same, Madam Terry, what about you? What is your view on the same?
Okay. It's important for all genders to be sensitized by the fact that sensitization brings awareness. And some of the problems they are going through is because of lack of awareness. So sensitization is a must. If you want to elevate, to make the domestic violence out of the society, sensitization on human rights, the rights of the women, the rights of the girls, the rights of the men has to be put in place for them to be able to move on. Again, also, going back to the Bible tells me that lack of knowledge is one of the reasons why people perish. So in other words, people need to be sensitive, people need to be given the information, because out of lacking that knowledge, then they are going into various problems in their lives and in their families. So sensitization is a must, not only to boys, not only to girls and women, but to all people.
Thank you, Madam Terry. Though your network is there, bandwidth is a bit weak, but we had that sensitization is very, very important. We are coming to the end of this forum, and before finalizing it, I would really wish to give each and every person a second just to give your final remark based on domestic violence, and if it is somebody's choice. After all that we have discussed, is it someone's choice? Your last remark. I'll start with Kezia, then we go to Madam Terry. Kezia, is it someone's choice? Your last remark.
No, domestic violence is not someone's choice. That it happens to them, that it is a choice. If it occurs again, then it's a choice. But it's a choice that we don't make knowing. It's a choice that sometimes it just happens because like we are saying, there's not that sensitization on what actually abuse is about, and the culture and the norms and the stigma and the stereotype around domestic victims needs to be addressed. So where to a point where shame is no longer there when a woman leaves home or when a man decides to leave his home because of abuse, that situation should be normalized. I think that is the key. We should normalize that when there's abuse, it is okay to take a break. It is okay to go for help. It is okay that abuse is there. First of all, we have to accept that abuse is there, and then we mitigate it. So
wow.
My final remarks is this.
Yeah.
There's abuse, run. And I have finished.
When there's an abuse, run. Wow.
Yes.
Madam Terry, go ahead. Your final remark. Wow. Or okay. There you are, Madam Terry. Don't run. Don't run. Go ahead.
Okay, my final remark is that God did not promise us life without hurdles. Life has hurdles. However, God has said, "You will not leave us He will not forsake us. Even in those situations, He will not leave us and not forsake us. And He has given us wisdom. So what I would say is that if you're in an abusive marriage, remember one thing, that one, you deserve a right, a safe and a happy life. And again, your children deserve a safe and a happy life. So if you're in an abusive marriage, remember those points. That yourself and children, you deserve a happy and a safe life altogether. So in this case, don't be trapped into the abusive marriage by your condition that goes hard with it. Don't be trapped because of guilt. Don't be trapped because of self-blame. My word to you is, when things fall apart, then you need to understand that they may actually be falling into place. So don't struggle with this marriage. As Kezia has said, take an action, because things are falling apart, but by the end of it, they are just falling into place. Thank you.
Wonderful. By the end of it all, they are falling into place. So in other words, you're just you've just reiterated Kezia's view of running. But yes, it is true that based on the statistics that we have, Kenya and there is under the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, all countries, including Kenya, committed to end all forms of gender-based violence by 2030. Unfortunately, many cases are not reported to authorities and few women get justice or receive medical care. There is lack of up-to-date national data in Kenya on the prevalence of domestic violence, but time-bound data shows how often the violence could be happening. Therefore, this is a case that is happening in our country. Even as we talk, as we speak, there might be a group of people that are already facing the same. Therefore, it's very, very important to sensitize people and give people the information, let them understand. And the best part of it will be at a tender age, as they grow, let them grow with the information and knowledge. I really want to thank you guys, Madam Kezia and Madam Reverend Pastor Terry Mola, for showing up and making sure that the show was a great show. Thank you so much. Until we meet again, I'll really request those who are following us on YouTube, subscribe and keep it locked. You can also follow us on our podcast, Paukwa Radio Podcast, on Google Podcast. You can also go to anchor.fm. You can go to Spotify, listen to our great shows that are coming your way every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Adios. Bye. Kwaherini sana. Thank you.